Hi, this is Veazie Podcast, the second episode. Christian is not here. He has some health problems, so instead we have Gerry Appel, my journalism teacher.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk about Back to the Future because when we are recording this, this is the last day that Back to the Future will be in the future.
And people have probably seen those memes online that Back to the Future after today will all take place in the past.
Yes, it will. After like 8 o'clock tonight, because that's the last time I think they show 2015.
I think you're right. Because when they leave 2015, it's dark out. It's nighttime.
Yeah, but I don't know how long they stay there. It doesn't.
Well, they
say
get there
how
at like
long.
7:28, I think, in the morning. And I'm sure if
7:28,
we're
and
wrong
then
in that time, our listeners will be quick to correct us.
Probably very quick. I know there was a few years ago, like in 2012, there was these pictures circulating that said it was January 21st, 2012 that they came here. I'm like, no, it's 30 years. They go 30 years in the past, 30 years in the future, and then 130 or 100 years into the past. That is
the ignorance of the internet. Today is the day Marty and Doc went to the future. No, it's not!
Yeah, seriously.
But today is the day Marty and Doc go to the future.
Yes, go to the future of about 4 hours from now. That's pretty much all that.
So they're there right now. They're here right now.
They are. They're here in a fake city.
Sean, what do you think about all the stuff that was supposed to happen today and that hasn't happened, or maybe the stuff that was supposed to happen that actually did happen?
Well, some of the things that did happen, I haven't seen many. They still got a lot wrong, but there's self-pumping gas stations. I saw this, I think it was History Channel documentary, maybe Discovery Channel.
Really?
Yeah, where they did it was like an hour long looking at all these different things. Nike is right now making the self-tying shoes.
Right, yeah, they have a patent out on that.
And while that's awesome, I feel they didn't get them out by today. If they had started selling them today, that would have been amazing.
You know, I wonder if they just can't figure out how to get the price point down, somewhere that works.
Yeah, because it is a lot of technology, and Nikes are already expensive enough.
Or maybe, you think, they would have wanted it out by today, but maybe they think if they hold it off until like Black Friday, the Christmas season, then
they'll start rocketing.
Did you get your $20 bottle of Pepsi Perfect?
Was it only $20?
Only $20 for a bottle of pop.
Okay, well,
what a bargain.
Well, I heard that it was like quite expensive. I feel like maybe for this entire month or this quarter in the business cycle, if they had just released that, they would have made so much more money than spending $20. You could jack the price up twice as much as a regular bottle of soda, and you'd still buy it because it's Pepsi Perfect.
Well, I wonder if it's on the secondary market already. Let's do a quick search on eBay for Pepsi Perfect.
Because I know there are people out there who go and make their own Pepsi Perfect bottles. Did Pepsi release Pepsi Perfect?
Yeah, but they did a limited run. It's like only several thousand.
Oh, and that's
bottles.
where it was like $1,000. But then their internet people started making their own bottles, and then you could fill it up with your own Pepsi. But that's not what Pepsi Perfect is.
Right. I imagine it's a different pop than regular Pepsi.
I think they predicted that Michael Jackson wouldn't still be around because he's on the monitors.
I think in the Veazie podcast studio must have lead shielding or something, 'cause I'm not getting much of a signal here trying to look up the Pepsi Perfect. So we'll just assume it's probably on the secondary market and it's probably more than we want to spend.
Probably, but I still would spend that if I had that.
$20?
I'd still spend $20 to have a Pepsi Perfect thing. But what I really would spend the money on is a hoverboard. I don't care about flying cars. That's just dangerous, especially with how bad people are with driving. Hoverboards would be amazing, though.
So not just the prop.
Not just the prop.
An actual working hoverboard.
A working hover, which they do have, but they're $10,000, and they're still in beta testing right now. And you have to have copper plating under you.
Which is copper plating is so common,
yes,
beneath street surfaces. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem.
If you were a Ninja Turtle, you could do that in are they made out of? I think they're made out of copper. The
turtles?
Plumbing, not the turtles. The turtles are made out of sugar, spice, and no, that's the Powerpuff Girls.
I think it's interesting too that the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, Back to the Future Part 2, and this year they had such an amazing season, and a lot of people thought this would be the year, but with the Cubs down 3-0, it's not looking good in the National League Championship Series.
Hey, they still could. They could.
Mathematically, it's possible.
Mathematically, it's possible, and hopefully, it's possible.
Did you think that it seems like Back to the Future Day is a big deal? Like it's trending on Twitter. There's every mainstream news outlet and non-mainstream news outlet in the country is carrying stories on it today. There's all sorts of tie-in promotions. Did you think it was going to be this big of a deal?
I don't think it was 20. No, it wasn't 30 years ago. It was like 26 years ago. I do not think they thought it was going to be this big of a deal. I think they thought that.
What about just a couple of years ago, though?
A couple of years ago, I still don't think they thought. I thought it was going to be pretty big, but
yeah.
Even now, I didn't think it would be this big.
I didn't either. I mean, and I agree with you. I think 26 years ago when it came out, of course, didn't think it'd be this big.
Yeah, they're like, whatever. That's a future day. Nobody's going to think 26 years ago these people are going to be
destroy
around.
the planet by then anyway.
Yeah, and
But the Cubs haven't won the World Series, so I guess the planet's safe.
Yes, well, that was a long bet to.
I don't know. I just thought, I've actually put on my iPhone calendar last year, this was Back to the Future Day, just so I wouldn't forget because I didn't know anything would be going on. That way I could celebrate it, by watching a movie or something. And
or all three of them.
It's huge. I logged into Facebook this morning, and you could, tag yourself or whatever, check in, it's Back to the Future Day, and it had a little DeLorean icon, and I'm
really?
like, that's so
I
cool.
I haven't been on actual Facebook. I've just briefly looked at it. But that's amazing and of course people are going to capitalize on this historic day that's been 26 years in the making. But I do not think it was going to be this big. And the places that I think that they should have been focusing on, they didn't do as much. Like Mattel isn't really doing anything. They might release some foam boards, but they should have just really started investing in hoverboard technology.
The R&D division could burn through some cash. Then.
In the last few years, I think Steven Spielberg should have just started making tons of Jaws movies just to get to 19.
Yeah, just to get to Jaws 19.
Just to get to Jaws 19, he will, ruin his career.
He's had some duds, though.
He has had some duds.
I mean, I love Spielberg, but he's had a few lately. I mean, heck, he's one of the executive producers on the Transformers movies.
Yeah, but executive producer doesn't really do much. It's really
counts their money.
Okay, with producers, you have to be down there and sing it. Executive producers, here, you can use my name. That's
right, exactly. But the name is still attached.
Yeah.
But you're right. What's interesting about this whole waiting for Back to the Future days? You and I have totally different perspectives on this.
Yeah, you were alive when this movie came out.
Right.
And I grew up watching these movies, so 1985 seemed just as distant 10 years ago as 2015 did. In 2005, I did not think I would make it to here, even though I knew I was going to make it to here.
Well, as a little kid waiting for this date, it did seem like it would never get here. And it's hard to believe that's finally here. It's almost surreal. You want me to date myself a little bit?
Yes, you can date yourself.
Okay. So I remember the first time I saw Back to the Future, and I was 6 years old, and we went to the rental store, my family, looking for a movie, and guy suggested Back to the Future. We never heard of it. It's like, all right, so we watched it, of course really liked it. And then at the end of the VHS release, it has the to be continued graphic.
Yeah.
And so it's like, ugh.
To be continued when you were a kid, that to be continued was like a year and a half of maybe it'll come to your theater.
Well, it was
a huge blockbuster.
Well, we watched it, I think, in 86, probably a year later. It was on video. So I'm guessing it was 86. And, Back to the Future Part 2 didn't come out until 1989. So it was only 3 years later. But, when you're a young kid anyway, when you're only, 7 years old, to start with, 8 years old, that feels like a long wait. And I remember...
It's gonna add a quarter to your life.
Yeah, exactly. And I can still remember, like, in 5th grade, for whatever, that's when it was, rumors were that they were starting to film and everything. I remember everyone talking about they cannot wait for this to come out. It was so anticipated. And then when the previews came out, people saw flying cars. I mean, it just blew everybody's mind.
And really, I saw the documentary. They were styrofoam cars. And when you go back through and watch the behind the scenes, you're like, that is so cheesy. But even still, it is mind blowing to me. And I grew up in the age of CGI. And
the effects hold up pretty well.
The effects do. And
not all of them, but for the most part.
Yeah, and actually, I saw the producers, they haven't, or the directors, they haven't said what the best thing they had was, but the best special effect they had was when his shoelaces untie, and they had 9 people around him pulling strings at the exact same time.
Is that how they did it?
That's exactly how they did it. It's just they had the shoes ready, people waiting right off of camera, and then they pull the strings all at once.
Gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
and I consider myself to be a Back to the Future, expert, but I'm hoping to learn a lot. I pre-ordered a book that arrived last night called Back to the Future: The Visual History.
I think I started reading that in a bookstore, but didn't have money.
Well, it just came out.
Did I?
You must be looking at a different Back to the Future book.
One of the many Back to the Future
Yeah,
books.
this one, it's nice. It costs $50, much cheaper on Amazon. I think I got mine for like $25.
Oh, only $25 for a book.
But it's a big book.
A big book.
And what's cool is you hear visual history, so you think, well, I can fly through this because it's just pictures. No, there's a lot of copy to it. And I was reading it last night because I didn't want to keep my eyeballs on the Cubs game exclusively because it was depressing.
Because you're like, oh, no.
I know.
What happened?
Oh, I know, but...
Maybe you should have bet in 1985 that would have happened now.
Predict that the Cubs... Yeah, it's... No, I'm rattled now. I can't... I'm... Poor Cubs. Maybe someday. But it is that weird pressure on the Cubs because of the movie.
Because now they're like, okay, this is the year that we have to win. I mean, even though it said that the Cubs would win in before 1985.
Should I get one of those like knockoff like Cubs championship T-shirts that are designed with like the Back to the Future looking logo on it?
I haven't seen those, but I've seen the Hill Valley. There's a Hill Valley hoverboard contest shirt that I really want.
Really?
Yeah, it has a hoverboard and it says Hill Valley.
There's a lot of good stuff out there. Some licensed, some not so licensed.
What's great is, I think that one was because it is huge out there, but they're stopping production today. You cannot buy one after today, which is great because, although if you actually think about it, if there was a hoverboard competition then those T-shirts would be still selling a few months later.
Yeah.
But they've been selling them for a few months previous. So whatever, I don't mind.
I was thinking about what you said about the books and the shirts and the merchandise. Did you know that they're launching a Back to the Future comic book this month?
I didn't know. I thought they already had that.
They did, yeah, way back in the day they did, and I think that tied into the animated series, which.
There's an animated series.
Yeah, and it's just now coming out for the first time in DVD, and. Honestly, well, yeah, here's the thing. You watch something as a kid, you're like, it's awesome. And then you watch it years later, and you're like, ugh.
Like, I watched the Ghostbusters animated series when I was a kid, and I'm like, this is pretty funny. And I watch it now, I'm like, this is awful.
Is it? Because I haven't seen it in a while either.
It's.
But I remember thinking it was decent. Well, Back to the Future.
It's corny, but not good corny like Bill Murray actually does.
Well, at the time, even Back to the Future didn't seem that great, the cartoon. It focused a lot on Doc's kids, Jules and Vern.
Wow.
And
I wonder where he got those from.
And they just came across as just very cheesy, and a lot of it was kind of like there was a lot of science stuff. It was kind of educational as well, which is cool, but I don't know. It just came across as cheesier than it should have. They had live action inserts with Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown too.
Really?
I would love to see it again. I just don't want to pay the money what they're asking for the DVDs.
Too much.
Yeah, I mean, if they can throw that on Netflix, that'd be great.
They can throw that on Netflix, and then maybe, or if you did spend that much money, then you got 3 of the Back to the Future movies.
Well, see, that's the thing. I already owned them on Blu-ray.
I would need to get them on Blu-ray.
And I wanted to get this new box set because it came with the animated series, a new documentary, and the casing is a light-up flux capacitor.
That's great.
And I was like, yes, heck yes. But it was like $80-something bucks. I'm like, I can't spend that type of money when I already have them on Blu-ray. It's just, that's...
You already have them. Yeah, it's a collector's item, but
Right.
Collector's items are only good if you are at one point willing to sell them, and that if you had bought that, you would have to wait so long, and that's why I don't do collector's items, because I cannot wait to sell it. I buy it, maybe wait a week or two, and then I'm like, okay, I already have this. I can just sell it.
I like that stuff too much. I can't sell it.
Yeah. Like, I have some figurines of the Ninja Turtles and stuff, which in 10 years, those could be sold. But I'm like, I don't really want to get rid of my little Raphael or my Groot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, is it worth it for the money?
Because it sits on your shelf for 10 years, and by the time it's worth something, it's become a part of your decor. It's become a part of who you are.
Even if it's in the closet, since you can go look at once in a while. My parents just moved from Indiana, where I grew up, to Florida, and I still had a lot of stuff left at their house. And so
they said, hey, come pick it up.
But yeah, get rid of this stuff. So last summer, I had to go through a lot of stuff, and you know, I don't have a ton of storage space. I was in an apartment at the time before I moved into my house, and I have a tiny car, so I can only take so much with me. And so
you had to leave some stuff behind.
And some stuff I gave to Goodwill, and you know, it's like some GI Joe vehicles, and you know, hopefully some kids got it that really appreciated it, but still, I'm like, man.
They would never appreciate it as much as you did.
Man, don't say that. It makes me sad. You're probably right.
That's just some Toy Story stuff right there.
Oh, that's true.
These
Toy Story 3? Oh, man.
I didn't
the
really
feels.
cry. I didn't cry.
I didn't cry, but the feels.
I didn't even feel that sad about it.
Really?
I thought Toy Story 2 was much worse.
Really?
Because, like...
I don't remember that one that was. It's been a while.
Well, with Jessie, her old owner left her and then forgot about her for years, and then she was picked up eventually by this collector, and that's just super sad.
Everybody take a moment. You know, wipe your eyes.
Yes.
We'll wait. Okay, we're good.
Okay, yeah.
So the Back to the Future comic, the storylines, it's not Back to the Future 4.
Yeah.
Which I guess the video game is basically Back to the Future 4. Which I played a little bit.
Which one?
There was I think they came out for PS3 and Xbox.
Oh yeah, those ones where you
was very
go
story
back
driven.
And you have to, I didn't really like it that much because it wasn't as action paced. Like if it had been an open world RPG,
right?
Within the you could go 1985, 1955, and 2015. That would be amazing. Even if it was just a small little world, you could go around doing all these quests. But instead, it was all right. You're now in this room, and you can move within this 3 feet, and you have to go look at different clues. It was like a detective game. And that's not what the movie was.
Yeah, not a lot of action.
Like you could get around with a skateboard, you could get around with a crate with wheels, and you could get around on a hoverboard. It would be wonderful if it was just like a city with even the same city because it's Hill Valley. You just would need to render the graphics.
Don't you think they missed the mark not coming out with something like that today?
You just take a small city like GTA style city.
Sure.
And then 3 different maps. One where it's older. I mean, I probably wouldn't go back to 1885 because I didn't like the third movie as much. And what's your favorite movie?
Well, I love all 3.
And I do too.
If I had to pick,
watch just the first 2.
If I had to pick one as the least favorite, I don't like that term because I love all 3. But if I did, I would say Part 3. Part 1, was the most original. Sets up the concept.
It was such a simple concept, but they did it so amazing that he has to go and save his parents' relationship.
Part 2
he messed it up in the first
is so crazy. All the different time zones, and then re-entering the first movie in a way.
And re-entering it, and then there's Michael J. Fox still doing Michael J. Fox stuff, but he's also under the car. What was this there the whole time? It makes you kind of want to go back and watch the first movie to be like, hey, look, he jumped out of the thing there. Or he was racing against time here with a hoverboard.
And I think in a way I had there's such an anticipation for Part 2, such a nostalgia.
And 6 months later, Part 3 came.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. And plus, it's having 2015 in that, giving us something to look forward to in the future. So
instead of looking back at the past to where you didn't exist.
Right, yeah. So I have a certain, emotion for Part 2. So in a way it's my favorite, but I don't know if it's my favorite because it's necessarily the best film. It's just the feelings I have toward it.
The feelings towards it. And
I mean, I do have a T-shirt. I have a Back to the Future Part 2 T-shirt because everyone has just the logo shirt just says Back to the Future. So I wanted a Part 2 shirt, so that's what I got. And
I wish I had some kind of... I think there was in Loot Crate, there's these figurines that look like old cartridges, and one of them was a rabbit who was dressed up like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, and it was some weird pun about Back to the Future. That's the only Back to the Future memorabilia I have. Although I want a DeLorean, just a straight DeLorean.
I'm sure, there's probably more than I realized, but I don't think there's a ton of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about the DeLorean, but outside of DeLorean models and toys, I mean, they did some action figures last year. They looked like the 1980s style, so they were pretty crummy looking.
But and that's also how you get a lot more money is. But look, it's such nostalgia. No, that's just not good craftsmanship. There's a difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny, people who grew up with some of the 80s toys, like to say that, they were, the Star Wars toys were awesome, and the Superpowers, which is DC Comics toys, they were awesome, and yeah, we liked them, they were fun, but you compare those sculpts and those molds to toys today, they're horrible.
They are horrible. Of course, a lot of people don't play with action figures like they used to. I used to, even when...
Right, they're collector's items now.
They're collector's items, and no, Uncle, I want the toy. Can I play with the toy? No, I'm going to put this up on my shelf for 10 years. Now kids have really cool toys, but it's all electronic. Like, they had, what was it? Leapfrog pad things where it was like a storybook. You would flip through the pages and then you press it with a little wand and it would register a little thing and it would speak out that sentence.
Sure.
Now those are all digital and there are just apps and games. There's many like tablets you can get for a 2-year-old that are Leapfrog. And I'm like, but come on, just play with an action figure. Use your imagination.
Sure. The tactile experience isn't the same as something on a flat glass screen.
That's why I also like reading books more than an ebook because, yeah, it's fun. It's the same adventure, but flipping through this thing is not the same as holding a piece of paper, reading through the words, and being able to actually see how little that story has left.
You know, I was thinking of paperback books. I have the second movie, the movie adaptation.
Yeah.
I'll have to go see if I can dig that out. So are you celebrating Back to the Future Day at all?
I'm probably going to watch the first two. I'm not sure if I have time to watch the third one.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to 1885 and watch that one. I'd bring a portable DVD player and then be like, here, just watch this.
Well, my plans are I'm going to see the first movie in the theaters. And then I'm going to go home, and since the Cubs have a playoff game, I'm going to watch the second one at home on my TV, and I'll have the Cubs going on my iPad. I'll just kind of keep an eye on them. They don't deserve my full attention at this point. I'm sorry, Cubbies.
Yeah, you get half of my attention.
That's right. But so I feel like I can celebrate both and try not to feel guilty. But that showing is coming up here, so actually I need to run. I'm off to the theaters to see Back to the Future.
All right.
So, Sean, thank you for having me today.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on and talking about stuff that I'm too young to know this stuff from personal experience, but I'm still a huge nerd. Anyway, this has been Veazie Podcast, the second episode. Thank you.